make history as I announced that I am calling a special session to finalize a new multi-billion-dollar economic development project for our state. The size of this new investment is unlike anything we've ever seen before. It will be the single largest capital investment that has ever been made in the state of Mississippi by a lot. That's because this project we'll be finalizing is at least a $10 billion investment in our state. Let me say that again, $10 billion investment. And just to put that in perspective, it is 4 times larger than the previous largest economic development project in our state's history. The project will create 1,000 new high-tech jobs for Mississippians and will help expand our state's growing technology sector. It truly is an opportunity for us to diversify our economy.
The governor yesterday, in announcing the special session in the House, it is the one, the only, the very busy Scott Waller, President and CEO, Mississippi Economic Council. Good time to be President, Mississippi Economic Council.
It is. It's a lot of fun to go. I just got back from a national meeting where Mississippi was talked really well about, so that's fun.
Bill is going to be in tomorrow, Mr. Bork, and I'm going to ask you, okay, this is fine, but what's next week going to look like?
Bill was at the Capitol yesterday. He was tired when I saw him.
I can imagine. People don't understand just the meetings and the figures and the tension and everything else, especially with something this big. First of all, your overview of this.
Well, first, let me congratulate the governor, Governor Reeves, Bill, and the team at MDA and all those that worked on this in the past. Joey Deason's team in Madison. The work that they have done is amazing. They're the guys that go out and recruit it. We're the guys that stand on the sidelines and cheer for them and try to give them the things they need to be successful. But I think I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment to say congratulations to all those groups that work so hard to make this happen, and then all the other economic development entities that are involved, the energy companies and all that in the state that are part of this process. And what I look back on it and think about the work that the legislature has done over the last 4 years and kind of setting the stage for these kind of things, and that's where MEC is part of that process at the legislature to create a stronger workforce, to create a stronger business climate, and now we're starting to see the benefits of that, and it's really a great day for Mississippi.
What does this mean to the future, though? People talk, because it's one of the things I was thinking about. In all of the other, I can't remember one that doesn't fit this description, but in everything else we've done, it's been product. This is service. Mm-hmm. In other words, we're producing data. We're not producing computer machines and things such as that. So this is more like a service industry more so than a product.
Correct, and that's one of the things that look, manufacturing is a major part of what our state's economy is. I know you talked with our partner at MMA, John McKay, works hard to make sure that segment case stays really strong, and that's working. But if we're going to diversify our economy, we've got to go into all these other areas. So when you start to see this kind of thing happen, it's really a good thing. And I'll just say this. A month or two ago when we were talking about all the different things that were kind of on the burners that were going across the state, and to have 2 go back-to-back weeks the way they have done here is kind of an amazing step. But the comment was made is this is going to change the way people look at Mississippi. And I think that's a great way of looking at it, because this type of project, this type of investment that gets out of what is our kind of been our norm for years in terms of economic development will really change the complexion of our state in so many ways that it shows people what can be done, what will be done. I mean, you go all the way back to you think about the project with Nissan over 25 years ago when you had a greenfield project that was going to do something that had never been done before in the country. It was done here in Mississippi. Now you have this, and you have the opportunity to really build on that and just continue to grow our state.
As a young man just into broadcast and involved in the community, there was something that we talked about, BAWI. You remember what BAWI was back in those early days?
Balancing, if I remember correctly, balancing agriculture and industry and something.
Balancing agriculture with industry way back in those days. And I thought when I saw this, I said, well, you know what? I think we've arrived at that point.
Paul, what that tells you is that both of us are kind of all up there. They will remember those programs.
Yeah. That was a long time ago. Do you know why it's in two separate locations? I can't figure that out because was it land availability or what?
No, I think the way when I've looked at this and first heard about these several years ago, they look for multiple locations that are fairly close to each other, that have all of the things they're going to need, from power to water and all of the things that it takes to run these types of facilities. And I guess it's a redundancy thing because even within the locations, as I understand it, there are multiple buildings within the locations where they're putting these. So it's
almost campus style.
Almost campus style. So I mean, it creates that type of that type of atmosphere. So you know, when you think about how they've done this in the past in other places where you've seen these hyperscale data centers, it's really a case of it's going to go here and it's going to go here. And even yesterday, when they were briefing members of the legislature, they talked about how this isn't likely the last two locations. There's probably going to be even more locations that come out of this as a result of it. So the key is a variety of things. Number one, a lot of people probably are just learning or have learned recently that we sit at the crossroads of technology with what they call these super fiber. Bill referred to it as black fiber yesterday, which is large fiber pipelines that run north, south, east, west. They cross right here in Jackson. That's a connection that goes from Dallas to Atlanta, New Orleans to Chicago. That's been there for a while, and one of the things that we've talked about in terms of technology is how do we build that in a way that we can continue to really build the opportunity for us to take advantage of sitting at the crossroads. So I think this is the first of many steps that you'll see. And the other thing is just like with any major manufacturing company where you have all these other people come in around it, you kind of will start to see that too, and that's been the case in other places. So I think the potential is, in a lot of ways, it's almost like this is just the tip of the spear. And that's what's great about this project is it's the opportunity to do something in our state that's going to continue to build on a lot of the great things that are happening that have led up to this.
Just as Bill said when he was on the air with me last week, he said as soon as this dropped in the Wall Street Journal on the EV battery in Marshall County, the phone was just ringing off the hook. I think the same thing is happening here as far as the data is concerned. Is it, and again, you may not know this, but is it the best kept secret or worst kept secret that this is Amazon's facility?
I do not know who the company is.
I don't either.
I don't. I mean, and that's the one thing that I will say, and that's a lot of people get upset about economic development, not talking about the company. Well, there's propriety things. There's other things. There's a reason that companies do not want their name mentioned when these things are going on. So, I think that's something that it's never really bothered me a whole lot, and even back in my days when I was a journalist, I always tried to respect that side of it because we understand where the company's coming from. And so I'm like you. I'm looking. We could speculate all day long, but the best thing to do is wait, and once the project's finalized and they announce it, then we'll know.
Well, we too. We had bits and pieces of information and a lot of stuff, and people would ask, and I said, we don't know, but it'll be fun finding out together.
Exactly.
So there we are. That said, if it is, when you call Amazon, and they literally get millions and millions of calls, probably daily across the entire country, they have to have a big data center that handles that. I wonder where their data center is now. We don't know, do we?
I don't really know either. I think that this is really an opportunity. Once we learn the company, and then we can know more about where they are and how all this fits together. I mean, the way it works is it really depends on the location providing all the needs that it has. And I think that's one of the great things that we have in Mississippi that we've seen, even with all of our projects, is that we have the opportunity to provide the location that puts us at the crossroads. We have the ability to provide the needs that it needs. But, one of the key factors is the ability to provide the power, the utilities that are necessary for doing this. And I think that's
I want to talk about that when we come back.
That's a great thing that our state offers in so many different ways. So
there are two things people don't understand, and I don't understand it, but when we were talking about this project off the record, it was the unbelievable consumption of power that is needed, and that has to be available. When you say this is just the tip, data centers in locations, you mean, have you heard around the same location or in other parts of the state?
The way it was kind of explained yesterday, and the way I've always understood it, it could be multiple places. So I mean, it's really, I think,
I see. Scott Waller, President and CEO, Mississippi Economic Council. The initiative process went on yesterday in the House of Representatives. Did you follow any of that?
A little bit. Again, with everything else going on, I didn't get a chance to really sit and do it. I actually was, as that started, I was in the process of testifying at a transportation hearing, talked about all the progress we're making there, particularly at the local level. I'll just say this real quick. The ERBR program was established with the legislation that was passed in 2018, and we're seeing some tremendous benefits over 281 projects. It's going to result in about 346 bridges being repaired or replaced. So I mean, we're making a lot of progress on so many different areas across the state. It's an amazing thing.
It'll be nice to see with the language of this bill as far as incentives and everything else happens to be. But as in Marshall County, they put $6 million in workforce development with the community colleges and things such as that. What do you do here? In the same manner.
Well, I think you'll see large amounts of money put in workforce, and I think that's what I said earlier when we started. I mean, the folks who are at the front lines of recruiting at MDA and the local economic developers, they're the ones that really are doing the work to bring these. But you've got to set the stage for it. And I think one of the things I just came back from our National Association of State Chambers meeting where counterparts, my counterparts from around the country, were sitting around tables talking about issues and hearing presentations. And let me just tell you what a great feeling it was on two different occasions to see Mississippi shed in such a positive light. One had to do with workforce development, and particularly our career coach program that started a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. So the fact that our legislature has made a commitment to these types of things by creating the Office of Workforce Development, the work that Ryan Miller and his team has continued to do at Accelerate Mississippi, that is the Office of Workforce Development, the Career Coach program, which we highlighted at our Capitol Day event, that was what they were talking about, that Mississippi is leading the way on these types of things. Then a little later in the economic overview, it was great to sit back and take pride and see that Mississippi was one of the top states in the country in terms of per capita growth, with over 17% in that tier of states that were highlighted. It sure is nice to see us in green. So, when you think about those are the types of things that are happening that are kind of laying the groundwork. So you're to get back to to answer your question, yes, I think when you look at the effort that's being put into workforce development, the commitment that's being made to workforce development plays a big role in helping these companies choose to come to Mississippi.
Well, on the initiative process, and I mentioned this a little earlier, Scott Waller is my guest this morning. That they were talking about the personhood versus the abortion language in the current initiative, my thought was, man, the world has changed since the personhood debate in a multitude of different ways, from abortion to just about everything else. And one of the ways is with these PACs, the amount of money they're able to pour in and influence any initiative. But aside from that, it's also changed as far as the country is concerned. Our discussion as far as brain drain, Scott, has also changed in the last 5 or 10 years, where I believe you have a lot of kids that are looking at this, and man, their dream was to go to California, go to Seattle, go to Colorado, go to New York, experience life like that. And then now they're getting some information and see the tax bases there, the amount of poverty and homelessness. My God, I was reading a couple of things on Oakland, California. Oakland has become a third world country in Oakland, California. They had one of the big stories yesterday. In-N-Out is a favorite hamburger place. It's been there for 27 years and on a couple of locations, but they're closing several of the locations and more to come, simply because they can't. Their number one item on the menu is robbery. And they are afraid for their employees, because when they come to work, a lot of times their life is in danger. And at the same time the story was going on, there was a stolen truck down a main street of Oakland, California, with a chain pulling an ATM machine at 7:30 in the morning. That's what's going on in the other parts of the country.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that we have happening in Mississippi that's going to really help start to drive those things. We're doing a lot of work on kind of looking at what we are saying is, how do we attract and retain more young professionals in our state, and what is it that they really are going to care about. And at the end of the day, all of those things that people want to point to say, well, this is it, that it comes down to the economics. It comes down to providing good opportunities, good jobs, and creating an environment where they want to live and raise a family. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that has stood out to me is how no matter whether it's some information I saw prior to us starting our study, the information we've seen in our study, that people initially point to, is there an opportunity for me to have a good job and career? Is there an opportunity for financial stability and growth? And if you have those things, that's what's going to attract people, and that's what they're looking for. That's their priorities. And then ultimately, one of the things that Mississippi is just great about, and I think that as people learn more about our state now that we're seeing this type of economic development, this growth, is that it's just a great place to live and work and play. And I think that's where we can sell that. And It's not that there aren't things that we need to improve on, yes, but but all those categories, we are making improvement and we're making a difference. And that's, just like I said, with the per capita income growth, that's a perfect example of how things are changing that's putting our state in a different light. You have an economic development project that's going to go before the legislature today that, when approved and when put into place, is going to change the complexion of our state entirely, and that's what I think is the most exciting thing that we could hope for right now.
What people think about the state of Mississippi has got to be organic, because nobody's going to help us with this. New York's not going to help us. The media is not going to help us. We have the liberal media within our own state peeing on our parade every single day, no matter what it is. So we're not going to get any help in this.
No, and I agree, and I will tell you this: when I'm on the road, I make that statement oftentimes. I said, we've got to tell our story, because if we don't, someone else will tell it for us. Yes. And when they do, they will not tell the one that we want. It won't be the right story, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah, in kind of a reverse action way on this, when people get here, it's just so totally contrary to what they've heard. We immediately get a heads up on it.
Right.
But I think if you underestimate, leading to what we were just talking about as far as our publicity and who the real Mississippi is, you can't underestimate the value of Ben and Aaron Napier as far as hometown in Laurel. And has such an incredible audience across the entire country, as number one for a long time on HGTV. And it spotlights Mississippi in a way that most people have never seen. And, every single episode, you got people coming in from California, Seattle, moving to Laurel, Mississippi. And it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it has an effect. And, it's really created an industry within itself. Last time I was in Laurel on a Saturday, I was just, you couldn't find a parking spot. It was just amazing. So.
What's the spinoff as far as future members from the Mississippi Economic Council and that look? We always talk about spinoff and indirect jobs. What does it look like as far as the data center concerned? Because it's something that we've never been part of. As you know, factories, yes, but this no.
Well, I mean, I think that's the one thing that I think that's something we'll have to learn and kind of explore and see as we get into this, because I don't think we really know. But I mean, I think at other places you've seen that growth, and again, I think that we have the opportunity to kind of talk about, as technology has changed the world, as AI is beginning to change things, that how do we be at the front edge of that in terms of attracting more businesses. I mean, you touched on this at the very beginning when we started talking about how the shift of getting a, quote, company that doesn't really produce that product that's being sold, but produces a service that has to happen. This is a necessary service in today's technology world. And I think that's why it's so important that we focus on how do we not only attract this company, but how do we attract others that are complementary to what it does? And I think that's where the greatest opportunities exist for us.
Final thoughts coming up in a moment or two. A project investment of about $250 million incentive package is what they're going to be working on today. The development will include the construction of 2 hyperscale data center complexes, one on the industrial park in Madison County, the mega site there, and the other a 700-acre site near Tougaloo College in Ridgeland, Mississippi, so both in Madison County. Final thoughts from Scott. Well, when the governor says, look, it's one of the top 20 biggest firms in America, that puts Apple, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, as far as the data-driven in there, but it's some others also. So it'll be interesting to find out. We don't care.
Exactly.
We really don't care which one it is. So it could be a multitude for all we care. And again, we'll have construction going on with those 3, meaning the steel mill over there, Dynamic Steel. We'll have it with this one, hopefully, and of course with the EV at the same time. Not to mention all of the other expansions of smaller jobs across the entire state.
Yeah, it's really amazing, because one of the things we talked about with the governor at Capitol Day is the amount of investment and the amount that's taking place, and a good bit of that is the expansion side of things. Companies that are growing. So I mean, when you look at it and you add these to what's already taken place, and it's really an amazing amount of money that's happening all throughout this state. That companies are making the investment, and that's what a lot of people think. Well, you see the $10 billion that they were the states, but no, that's the company's investment. The state will, I think you said the number earlier, 250 something,
$250 million incentives.
The $10 billion is coming from the company.
Investing.
That's what they're
Yes.
investing in our state.
Yeah.
I think sometimes that gets lost in translation, and I think when you think about what they're doing with the $250 million incentives, a lot of that it's not money out of pocket. It's a tax. It's created through tax rebates and things of that nature that we wouldn't have without them. And that's the thing is, it's not like we're giving up something that we have right now. We're just saying, okay, we're going to give you these incentives and these ways of doing it to come here, which every other state in the country does, by the way. I mean, it's not like this is an anomaly. We're competing with everybody else with these same type of offers. So when you put this together and look at it, it's the dividends it will pay is absolutely incredible long term, and I think that's what's amazing.
I will have to get him in. I won't understand anything he's saying, but it'll be amazing. That's Haley Forsackerly, and just what this will require as power. It would be absolutely amazing to learn this. But you got to have some redundancy too, because I mean, if something happens.
Yeah, and I think I probably learned more about baseload generation than I ever dreamed I would right after Katrina, because what we learned is you have to have a diverse sources of fuel to produce the electricity that's needed. And that's one of the things that we're fortunate that our companies, not just energy, but Mississippi Power and our cooperatives and TVA and those others that exist, Cooperative Energy is a producer, is that we have the ability to have diverse fuel sources with mixes within how they how they generate electricity, and that's a big part of our ability to be successful and keep rates low and all of the things that really matter. Because in those places where you don't see that, that's where you have the things like the rolling blackouts and things of that nature that just aren't good for you cannot run a facility like this one if you can't be assured that the power is going to be there. That's a fact. So, and
Scott, what the governor said too about bringing all the entities together as far as the regulatory, the Public Service Commission, and the EPA, and all of these people. Everybody on the same page. And then also never forget how important it is to have a local state ownership of things like the good people at Humina and the folks at C-Spire. Fiber optics in here, broadband, one of the things also that's a very, very important. So it's a lot of people working together.
And I think that's exactly right. And that's what that I think is important when we talk about Mississippi's business climate and how do we create a way that everybody feels comfortable here, because regulatory is a big part of it. Mm-hmm. If you've got a regulatory climate that is very difficult to navigate, very difficult to deal with, then it's very hard for you to convince a company, hey, come on, it's going to be easy. If you get these people around the table and they're saying, yes, we'll make sure that there's a permitting process that doesn't delay your efforts of getting this done. If you make sure that everybody's on the same page with how, whether it's the public utilities, PSC, or whatever the case may be, that, hey, this is why we're doing what we're doing, and they understand that on the front end, and they buy in and commit to making that happen.
Yeah.
A lot of great things will happen, and I think
more now than ever before.
More now than ever before, and I think really, as I said, there's more to come, and that's what excites me.
It's just in a time where places like California, New York, where, just as an analogy, every day the CEO gets a call at his door, opens up the door, and it's a guy in a government suit just slaps him and leaves. and they've been doing this now for a while, and the slaps are getting harder and harder, and they're picking up the phone and calling other places. So that's good news. Good to have you, man. Appreciate it very, very much.
Thank you for coming on, and it's great. It's going to be a great day in Mississippi, and Mississippi is a great place to do business.
We will follow this and enjoy doing so. Scott Waller, President, CEO, Mississippi Economic Council. If you're not a member, what in the heck are you waiting for?